Welcome to Asian American Life. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. Starting this school year, New York City, along with states like New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Illinois, will start teaching Asian American and Pacific Islander history in grades K through 12. It's all part of a nationwide effort to fight back against anti-Asian hate with education. So students at schools like Flushing High School right behind me will soon start learning our rich history and culture. I'll have more on New York City's pilot program coming up. But first, here's a look at what's ahead on our show. Election Watch, political candidates and the issues that impact voters. It's Filipino American History Month. Find out why we celebrate it in October. Plus, meet the artists who formed the Basement Workshop. And beauty lines, skincare rooted in traditional Eastern medicine. This and more on Asian American Life. If your children attend New York City public schools, they may be getting a lesson in Asian American history. It's all part of an effort to elevate Asian American stories and to fight back against anti-Asian hate. Vanessa Leung co-leads the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families, CACF, a nonprofit that has long pushed for Asian American history to be taught in schools.
We've heard so much from our young people throughout the years that they feel erased, that they're not visible in understanding who we are as a community, our history, our contributions, our struggles.
New York City's AAPI students will hopefully no longer feel invisible. Asian American and Pacific Islander history and culture will now be a part of the New York City school curriculum, starting with a pilot program.
This new curriculum is a milestone in our ongoing support to AAPI students and families in our public schools and communities. And it's an integral part of our effort to lift the voices of all of our students.
New York City joins a growing but still short list of states and cities across the country that now mandate teaching AAPI history. The changes in the curriculum come at a time as violence against Asians has surged. Violence many say is rooted in a long history of racism.
These last couple of years have been far beyond anything anybody could have imagined. I mean, honestly, I thought I had seen the worst days of anti-Asian racism long in my past, from when I was a kid to my early years. I never imagined that this ugly, this racism, this bigotry would rear its ugly head again.
According to Stop AAPI Hate, there has been close to 12,000 attacks on Asian Americans since the start of the pandemic.
We are sick and tired of having to see our friends and family get blamed for global pandemics.
Asians are the fastest growing demographic, making up 18% of the city's population and 11% in the state, an increase of 37% since the last census. New York State Senator John Liu and activists say the only way to combat the hate is with education.
And the reason we get blamed and therefore hated and attacked is because of ignorance. It's easy to blame people that you don't know or you don't understand.
Senator Liu is co-sponsor of a bill to require AAPI education statewide, hoping to follow in New York City's lead. According to a recent study, AAPI teaching is either lacking or not inclusive. 18 states do not include any Asian history in their K through 12 curriculum. And districts that do usually narrow the lens and focus on East Asians, ignoring the diverse community. Advocates are pushing for lessons to include various pivotal moments, including the Chinese migrants who helped build the Transcontinental Railroad, Japanese internment, Filipino farm workers' contributions to labor laws, and the violence against Sikhs after 9/11. New York City says they want to make sure to do it right by starting with a pilot. New York is not only the largest school district with 1 million students, it also has one of the most diverse Asian student populations. The program is part of the Hidden Voices Project, which aims to illuminate lesser-known historical figures. We met with Lucius Leung, the city's chief of curriculum and instruction.
It's going to be integrated as part of our social studies program. And with that, folks are going to have the students are going to have the chance to be able to really hear about the voices that sometimes have not been taught in the curriculum. And as a result of that, they're going to be stronger at analyzing, I would say, like what's taken place in the past and make better connections of the past to the present.
Young, a former principal, emphasized that teacher training and feedback from the pilot is critical to help make the program a success.
Number one, we want to make it right. It's important for us to hear from different stakeholders. So the engagement process is critical. We're going to have a chance to hear from teachers, hear from students. And the reason we want to pilot is because we want to see what it looks like and how it lands inside classrooms.
Community input was also important. Young's team worked with several outside organizations, including CUNY's Hunter College and CACF. Leung adds that while they celebrate this as a win, the work is far from over.
I think it's a step forward, but I feel like we're not done with advocating. I think a lot of it is at the end, like how can the curriculum be better? How do we make these connections around points of history and solidarity with other communities? How is it actually reaching kids in the classroom, and how is it being shared? Because, I think, because at the end, it could just be purely compliance. They'll print out some copies of these things, put up some posters, but if our kids are actually not working with the material, if our educators are not supported in their professional development, we haven't won yet.
I'm Ernabelle DeMillo for Asian American Life.
I'm Kyung Yoon. A record number of Asian Americans are serving in every branch of New York City and state government, building political power and giving voice to their communities. With the November elections around the corner, what's at stake for Asian Americans? For the first time in New York history, a Filipino American is in the running to take a seat in the state legislature. Stephen Raga of Woodside, Queens, won the Democratic primary for District 30 in June by a landslide and is now the heavy favorite to be elected to the state assembly in November. And in upstate New York's Hudson Valley, climate activist Sarahana Shrestha, originally from Nepal, ousted a longtime incumbent in a surprise upset to win the Democratic primary for the 103rd District, which includes parts of Ulster and Dutchess counties.
For Brooklyn, this name will mean so much for my Asian community.
In Brooklyn's newly drawn District 17, which has a heavy Asian population, Taiwanese American Ewen Chu is primed to win a New York State Senate seat in November, joining fellow Asian American state senators John Liu, Kevin Thomas, and Jeremy Cooney.
My name is Grace Lee, and
In Lower Manhattan's 65th District, community activist and small business owner Grace Lee clinched the Democratic primary to take over the state assembly seat currently represented by Yulin Liu, and is poised to be the first Korean-American woman elected to the New York State legislature.
This is the start of something with the large number of incumbents that we have and new candidates who are running for office. The plane is taking off the runway, right? I think that, as with anything else, is when you see people who are running for office and willing to do that, you're going to get other people who are doing it.
Vivian Louie is a professor of urban policy and director of the Asian American Studies program at Hunter College. She says we're seeing real momentum in Asian Americans running for office in New York City and state.
Representation is critical, and we know that from the research across diverse domains, that people are really struck when they see someone who looks like them in a position of authority. And then that motivates them to think, maybe I can be in a position of authority, and maybe I should take those steps to achieve that.
We need to fund this New Deal for CUNY.
State Assembly member Yulee New burnished her status as a superstar in New York politics when she shot near the front of the pack in the heavily contested Democratic primary fight for New York's newly redrawn 10th congressional district. Though she wound up finishing in second place, narrowly losing to Dan Goldman, an heir to the Levi Strauss fortune who outspent her by millions of dollars, she proved that she's a formidable candidate.
Because it was such a crowded field. I mean, let's not forget that former Mayor de Blasio was in that field at a much earlier point. And so what she's been able to do is truly remarkable.
John Liu, do solemnly swear. Solemnly swear.
It was only 4 years ago that John Liu and Kevin Thomas made history as the first Asian Americans elected to New York State Senate. In 2020, they were joined by Jeremy Cooney, an Indian American adoptee who became the first Asian American to win state office from upstate New York. Also in 2020, Jennifer Rajkumar and Joran Mamdani became the first South Asians to be elected to the New York State Assembly, joining fellow Asian American Assembly members Ron Kim and Yulee New. And in New York City Council, an historic 6 Asian Americans won council seats in the last election cycle. Asian Americans are the fastest growing ethnic community in New York City, with now well over 15% of the population. At the same time, the number of Asians living in poverty had grown by 44% from 2000 to 2016, and this was before the devastating impact of the pandemic, along with the rise in anti-Asian violence. This has many community members looking to Asian American elected officials to represent their needs.
There's a lot more work to be done. That's really the critical next step after you get the electeds, people meeting to serve in elected office. It's about allocation of resources. It's also about having folks being appointed to office, right? And being part of the governing coalition to actually enact change and to meet the needs of the diverse communities in our city and in our state.
And many political analysts say this is just the beginning, and we can expect to see more momentum for Asian American political representation in the years to come. I'm Kyung Yoon for Asian American Life.
I'm Vivian Lee. October is Filipino American History Month. Advocates who fought for this recognition emphasize history because rather than just a celebration of heritage, the month is dedicated to raising awareness about Filipinos' contributions to American life and culture for more than 400 years. From the first landing of the Filipino crew of a Spanish galleon in Morro Bay, California on October 18, 1587, to the Delano grape protests of 1965, which led to the creation of the United Farm Workers Union, to President Obama formally recognizing in 2015 the contributions of Filipino Americans who fought in World War II. Filipino American history has been flourishing since before the Mayflower docked in Massachusetts. Today, there are more than 4 million Filipino Americans in the U.S., making them the third largest Asian American group. Notable Filipino Americans include yo-yo enthusiast Pedro Flores, who first popularized the toy, NASA Mission Operations Manager Angelita Castro Kelly, the first woman in that role at the space agency, and performers Leah Salonga, Bruno Mars, and Olivia Rodrigo, who at age 19 won a Grammy for Best New Artist this year. For Asian American Life, I'm Vivian Lee.
In the early 1970s, Asian American artists and activists formed what would become known as the Basement Workshop, the first Asian American arts and cultural organization on the East Coast. I caught up with artist Arlen Wang, one of the original members, who frames the organization's history for us.
Wow, these are great.
Painter Arlen Wang is an OG of the Asian American social justice movement. He's one of the original members of the Basement Workshop, the first Asian American arts and cultural organization on the East Coast.
My span in Basement is very small. It's 1 minute in the history of Basement. But that one minute happens to be dawn.
For Arlen, the dawn of the Asian American social justice movement began more than 50 years ago.
You know, I think America during that time was going through some big changes. People had already known very much what Black Panthers were. At the core of Black Panthers is reclaiming your history, right? Reclaiming your spot in America. So that carries through to other people of color. The first thing I did when I came to New York was to join the anti-war march, join the Asian Coalition, and these singers came up to sing. And I am a yellow pearl, and you are a yellow pearl, and we are the yellow pearl, and we are half the world. It was Yellow Pearl performing their rallying song of the burgeoning Asian American social justice movement. I had never heard anything like it. They were singing anti-imperialist, anti-colonial songs in the vein of Asian American, how it applied to us. Unheard of, never heard that before. Inspired, Arlen soon found himself crammed with other Asian American activists in the dingy basement of 54 Elizabeth Street in New York City's Chinatown. That you share some kind of history and that you are gathered to make your own history and to reclaim that history that you don't know is a big deal. Arlen volunteered to lead one of the group's projects, a book featuring the music and lyrics of Yellow Pearl and the work of contemporary Asian American artists. We can't remember if we put out 250 copies or if it's sold at $2.50. What was important in putting out Yellow Pearl was consciousness, Asian American consciousness, anti-imperialism, third world solidarity. Arlen says he became enmeshed in the work, even met his wife, Lillian Leung, there. He says he started his business, Squid Frames, in part to support his work at the Basement Workshop. We could just open up this business, make a little money, right, pay the rent, and then spend our time at Basement doing silk screens and other community activities. The Basement Workshop got busy. They published Bridge magazine and started providing social services, including art classes, and the very first health fair in Chinatown that would evolve to become the Charles B. Wang Health Center, that's still providing health care for the Chinatown community today.
Basement really planted those seeds of being able to be seen and recognizing that we have the capacity to write ourselves into history.
PhD candidate Christina Ong is writing her dissertation about the Basement Workshop.
Basement was sort of this incubator for the ideas and dreams of Asian Americans. I believe that it gave them the inspiration and the capacity to start their own organizations. Asian Cinevision and the Chinatown Historical Project, now the Museum of Chinese in the Americas, are just a couple of today's existing organizations that grew out of the Basement Workshop.
Some of them become tomatoes, some of them became flowers and roses, etc.
Eleanor Young branched out and started the Asian American Arts Center, a few years after she and her brother Danny Leung co-founded the Basement Workshop at 54 Elizabeth Street.
Basement Workshop was the physical space giving room for mental space and emotional space, so our ideas can go out and spread out and build bridges, to different communities.
Basement was a cultural phenomenon. It's one set of shoulders for you to stand on. Where you go is up to you.
Arlen Wang is preparing an exhibit of his art collection from the Basement Workshop days in 2023. For Asian American Life, I'm Rainer Ramirez.
I'm an American.
I am an American.
I'm an American.
I'm an American.
I'm an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am Asian American.
I'm an Indian American.
I'm biracial.
I'm South Asian American.
I am Chinese American. And we belong.
I belong.
I belong.
I belong.
I belong.
We belong.
We are American.
We are American.
We are Americans.
We are Americans.
We are American.
A modern twist on ancient principles is a foundation of one young entrepreneur's beauty brand that's rooted in traditional Chinese medicine.
If you wake up and you feel like your eyes are puffy or swollen, this is really great for promoting that fluid drainage.
Beauty care that's more than skin deep.
Traditional Chinese medicine is really about addressing the root cause, addressing skin health from within, and taking a holistic approach.
A concept Stephanie Zhang, the founder and CEO of beauty brand Mount Lai, discovered at an early age, watching her grandmother use traditional Chinese rituals in her skincare.
Lymphatic drainage, targeting stagnation, restoring the flow of qi.
Practices that tackle the underlying causes of skin problems that Zhang is acutely familiar with.
I used to have really bad eczema, so I'd have to wear mittens to bed because I just scratched my skin so raw. And then in high school and college, I dealt with really bad bouts of acne.
Conditions that made Zhang passionate about skincare. An entrepreneur since the age of 15, Zhang was a sophomore in high school when she started a small business selling homemade Harry Potter necklaces with $100 of birthday money. Reinvesting the profits back into her business, the young entrepreneur helped finance her tuition for business school.
When I graduated, I started full-time on the e-commerce team of Clinique, but on the side, I was working on a passion project of mine, Mount Lai.
A personal vision that proved to be a great venture.
A few months after we launched, Sephora actually found us through social media.
Now Mount Lai is carried at Sephora and hundreds of retailers, spas, and salons around the world. Zhang says despite its far reach, the company still has a homegrown philosophy.
Our skincare is actually crafted by hand in our skincare studio in New Jersey, and we're all about creating things with intention.
And part of that intention is creating products with superpower herbs and botanicals that have been studied extensively in traditional Chinese medicine, like the Tremella Activating Essence Mist, made from tremella mushrooms and fermented black tea.
Tremella mushroom is a TCM beauty superfood that actually holds up to 500 times its weight in water and is just really incredible for helping the skin hold on to its hydration.
Formulating these products is a family affair with input from Zhang's parents, Chinese immigrants, and CUNY graduates who studied chemistry. Along with topicals, tools are part of the Mount Lai line, like the company's gua sha facial lifting tool, a healing practice that's been used in ancient Chinese medicine for centuries.
Sometimes you'll have stagnation or buildup, and that's where you can see some common skin issues like dullness or breakouts or puffiness. So one of the things that I really love about my facial gua sha practice is that it really helps encourage manual lymphatic drainage and helps encourage the removal of the toxins.
The popularity of Mount Lai products has taken off, becoming a favorite of celebrities. A glowing journey for the self-described recovering perfectionist who offers this advice to young entrepreneurs.
The idea that has helped me the most is imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. So honestly, the most important thing is truly just to take the first step.
For Asian American Life, I'm Susan Jun.
That's our show for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about these stories, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Asian American Life. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. We'll see you next time.